Welcome to Get Ready San Mateo County. I'm your host, Jennifer Jolly. During the next half hour, we're going to guide you through many steps that you can take to better prepare yourself and those you love should disaster strike, large or small, here in San Mateo County. Why prepare? Well, there's no doubt we live in one of the most beautiful places on the planet. We have our Pacific coastline, spectacular forested areas, the San Francisco Bay, plus art and culture in abundance. But along with those things does come a flip side. We do live in one of the most earthquake-prone zones in the world. Plus, there's a constant threat of things like tsunamis or weather-related events, even urban and wildland fires. And nowadays, we even have the threat of terrorism. So the question now is, are you prepared? What have you done to prepare yourself and those who depend on you for their care? People like your family, your kids, people with special needs, even your pets. Well, today we have gathered a team of experts from San Mateo County who want to share with you the basic, simple actions you can take right now to better prepare and protect yourself, your home, and your loved ones should disaster strike. We start with Lieutenant Randy Randleman. He's here from the Office of Emergency Services here in San Mateo County. Hi, Lieutenant Randleman.
Hi there, Jennifer.
So why is it so important that we as residents of San Mateo County get prepared for an emergency?
Well, we have a large amount of medical staff, fire, police that are well trained in what to do in the day-to-day activities in San Mateo County. But when it comes to a large disaster, they're going to be very busy and unable to help all 750,000 people in this county.
Well, I understand that 95% of the time, it's really civilians who are first to respond in a disaster.
That's correct, Jennifer. I mean, the people are at their locations when the disaster happens. Law enforcement, fire, and medical has to respond to that area. So therefore, the civilians are there first, and they need to be prepared for this. And that's why we need a partnership with the civilians to be prepared for this, because frankly, we're not going to be able to handle this on our own.
Where do we start when preparing for a disaster?
Well, you can prepare for a multi-hazard event. And by that, we mean get ready for an earthquake, a fire, a tsunami, whatever it happens to be. Just have one kit ready to go and one plan for it.
Okay, thank you so much, Lieutenant Randy Randleman. Let's get started. We start with Lee Bach from the Foster City Fire Department. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Jennifer.
Okay, you're going to walk us through the very number one first step for planning for an emergency, right?
Yes.
Where do we start?
Well, the best and easiest place to start is with a communication plan. That's the type of plan that you would put together where you would be able to contact people outside your community. These are the people who are important to you, people who really mean a lot in your life, your family members, even your boss, your coworkers, and your best friends.
Okay, when you say communication plan, I think that's technical, it's difficult, and it's a lot of hard work.
No, not at all. It's just a matter of putting together some names and phone numbers, maybe some email addresses, some text message addresses, just some means to be able to communicate to these people and let them know that something's happened and that you're okay.
The same list that you would have if you have a baby.
Exactly.
It's the list of people to call when something really important happens to you. You put together the list, what do you do with it?
Oh, that's a really good question. Very simple. The best thing to do is once you make the list, give it to someone that you know and trust who lives outside the area. For instance, I have a sister who lives in San Antonio, Texas, and she has a list of all my contact people, my in-laws, my coworkers, my friends, my children's teachers, everybody who is involved in my life. So when disaster does strike, I can contact my sister in Texas, and then she in turn.
Right, so you make one phone call.
Exactly.
That's the important part here. You make one call out, and then she contacts everyone else.
Right.
So you're not jamming up the phone lines, and you're not dealing with crowded phone lines or maybe no phone service.
Oh, exactly. And she can give to these people the information that they need to know that I'm okay, and also where they can reach me.
Okay, that is so important. Every time we have a disaster, you hear about, I've been trying to find my father. I haven't heard from him in 3 days. This is this is the way to take care of that.
Yes.
Okay, and we're talking about communication and phones, and I see that we have a couple phones on the table.
Well, your standard cell phone, you may not be able to use it during a disaster. Your best bet may be a pay phone or even a traditional phone, a corded one that's plugged into the wall.
And I heard that that's important because when you have those cordless phones like everybody has nowadays, that they take battery power or they take electricity,
Right.
and electricity is one of the first things to go.
Yes, in a disaster that definitely can happen. And so the regular standard phone, the traditional phone, does not rely on electrical current. It's just plugged into the wall.
Okay, so your electricity might be down, phone line still might be working. That might be your safe bet.
That and also text messaging. Surprisingly enough, you may be able to get a text message out where you wouldn't be able to speak on the telephone, but you definitely can text message people.
Oh, great idea. Okay. We've talked about then like our relationships. So we make sure that we are able to get in touch with the people who need to hear from us.
Yes.
We've dealt with the phones. What do we do about our identity, about all the things that make up kind of who we are?
That's critical. That's very important information. What you need to do well before a disaster occurs, you need to make photocopies of all your important documents. They could be your social security card, driver's license, credit cards, the deed to your house, your passport, birth certificates, marriage certificates, adoption certificates.
As you rattle on this list, all I can think of is if all of those burned up in a fire or were destroyed in a hurricane, the time, effort, and energy it would take me or any of us to get those back, that alone is a disaster to me.
Oh, that's very true.
That is so smart. So once you've made copies of all of that and assembled it, and we have a disc here because I know you could actually do this on a disc nowadays. This is your whole home inventory right on a disc.
Yes, you can take these documents and scan them into the computer and download them to a disk. You can also, if you're not computer savvy, you can also take the regular documents, make photocopies, and then send them to someone outside the area, someone that you know and trust.
Okay, so you put all these documents together and they go to that same person who's got your phone list.
Yes, the contact person.
And if you don't have someone like that in your life, what can you do?
Well, you can always use a safety deposit box. That's a safe bet.
Somewhere safe.
Exactly.
Okay, and we talked about now these documents, but I mentioned this home inventory, and that kind of leads us into our next idea is that you have all these valuables in your home. How do you account for those?
Oh, this actually can be quite fun and simple to do.
Fun.
All you need,
Okay, I like
all
that.
you need is a piece of paper and a pen, a camera, or a video camera.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can take a home video camera, just go room to room and shoot everything that's in there with your video camera.
Yes, and while you're doing it, it's a
Very
good idea
smart.
to give a commentary. Like for instance, if there's a valuable piece of furniture or some artwork, something like that, document it as such so people know that that particular item does have value and also its importance in your life.
Read off make, model, serial numbers into
Yes.
the camera. And if you don't have a video camera, a digital camera, or even one of those just disposable point and shoots works just fine, right?
Right, just some means to record the information. And even the good old piece of paper and pencil would work just fine.
I know, I have to admit, that's how mine is stored. We have, this is an example of a computerized spreadsheet of that. I'm still with the pencil.
Yes.
And, but that's okay. All right, and again, you want to store this with that same person or in the safe deposit box?
Right, your contact person who has your communication plan, your document plan, and also your home inventory plan. That would be with the person, your contact person outside the area, someone you know and trust, or also, like you say, in a safety deposit box.
Lee, I know that you've seen several disasters firsthand. How important is this kind of preparation?
Oh, it's unbelievably important. It really is. And I have seen personal tragedies where people have lost everything they've owned. And it's to say the word disaster doesn't come close for what people experience. And if they only had, and that's one thing people have said to me so many times, I lost I wish I had, oh no, I didn't make copies. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, take your documents, spend, like you said, the half hour or the hour. Do this now. It could save you just countless hours of grief.
Oh, yes.
If a disaster strikes. And you don't even say if, you say when.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a matter of time.
Right. Okay, thank you so much, Lee. I've learned so much here today, and this is just the first step in being totally prepared if or when a disaster strikes.
Yes.
Thank you. There are so many ways that we can be more prepared inside our home, and here to help us with those steps is Sean O'Connor from the Colma Fire District. Thank you for being here with us.
You're welcome.
Okay, so first up, where do we get started and how do we prepare?
Well, the next step is to continue working your plan and to identifying those things that you can do before a disaster to mitigate any risk, as well as to know what to do during and after disaster, such as finding exits in your home.
Okay, well, this is going to be a long conversation, so I want to sit down and
Okay.
talk through it. But you said exits from your home, so don't we just go out the front door?
Well, that's an option, definitely. However, you need to have at least 2 exits because in case one of those is blocked. So identifying exit points within your home, as well as those safe areas and hazard areas if you're at during an earthquake, such as large glass windows or heavy objects that could fall. And identifying those beforehand so that you know where they are.
And a lot of times, bedrooms, I know my bedroom, my daughter's bedroom, it's on a 3rd floor. What do you do if your exits are blocked? You can't go down the stairs?
That's a common worry. They do make fire escape ladders that you can purchase, which will allow exit through the window down to the floor. The key is to make sure that it's long enough based on the height that it is.
And they're little small things you can just fit right next
You
to
can
your
usually
bed.
slide them right under your bed.
Okay. All right. We have several ways to prepare our home to make the home safer here. What are these things?
These are various items. One of the key steps is to secure items in your home before the earthquake hits. The biggest risks during an earthquake are items falling off the walls or shelves, as well as water heaters. Gas lines coming into a water heater are a large risk. And you can mitigate that by purchasing flexible hoses, which allow the water heater to move. It's not quite so rigid. In addition, strapping your water heater to a wall to secure it so that it does not fall or break that gas line.
Now, I'm not very mechanically inclined. Could I do that myself?
It's pretty straightforward. However, it's one of those items because you are dealing with gas, it's always safe to hire a professional to ensure that it's done properly. Items such as this, however, you can do in your home because they're very straightforward and have explanations on the back for exactly what to do.
What is this?
This is an item that works very well for heavy objects that are hanging on the wall. Ideally, you don't want to have heavy objects hanging over your bed because of the potential of falling and hitting you while you sleep.
And everyone loves to put those gigantic portraits right above their bed. Not the
Exactly.
best place for it.
Not the best place for it.
Okay.
If you really are going to have to do that, then I recommend using something such as this, which is a picture hook that allows it to move, but it will not let it fall.
Okay.
Very easy to install. In addition, we have furniture straps. Heavy objects such as large bookcases, TVs, those items that could really cause a lot of damage or injury if they fell forward, can be secured to the wall using a strap such as this that has Velcro and make sure that it resists the urge to fall forward. In addition, any of you who have toddlers or have kids around the house are familiar with these cabinet locks. They're very valuable in keeping those items in your cabinets and keeping the doors closed so that the items don't fall out and either break or injure someone.
Okay.
Lastly, one of the objects that is my favorite thing to use is called Quake Hold Gel. It's an item commonly used by most museums. It's a clear gel that has a very kind of a sticky consistency to it, but it'll keep an object from shaking or falling, but yet if you need to remove it, you just simply pop it off and it won't leave a residue where it was at.
I love that because you think of things falling and hurting you, but also what about your most valued, piece of china? You
Exactly.
don't want that to fall down and break. That's excellent.
These are
and
great.
it's so easy to use. I love that.
And it takes very little to be very effective.
Well, I noticed that you brought the fire extinguisher.
Well, a fire extinguisher is one of those items that even before disaster, for common household fires, this is one of the best items you can have in your house. They're very simple to use. However, we always recommend to go through a formal training to know exactly what to do with it.
Yeah, they can be really tricky.
Exactly. They do have clear directions on it as well as the different types of fires that they can fight because there are different classes.
So it's good to really read this and get familiar with it now
Correct.
before you're panicking.
Exactly. It's all part of the planning process.
Right.
If you're aware of the hazards ahead of time, you can plan for them and educate yourself.
And really the trick is not to panic, but before the adrenaline's rushing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, where can you get this stuff?
A lot of these items can be found in common household hardware stores. The furniture straps, cabinet locks, definitely. Some of your more specialized items like the Quake Hold Gel or these picture hooks, you can find through online resources or specialty stores.
What if there's someone in your house who has special needs? Somebody who has a hearing impairment or children even?
Exactly, all things to take into consideration. For children, you want to be aware, especially if they're at school, what the school's emergency plan is. What are they going to do if a disaster hits so you can incorporate that into your plan, as well as educating your children on how not to be scared, but how to educate them ahead of time. As far as
Prepared, not scared,
yes,
right?
very good point.
Okay.
And those seniors or those with disabilities, anticipate those needs ahead of time, especially if someone has limited mobility. those access points are going to, exit points are going to need to take that into consideration. How do you get someone out of your home if they have limited mobility?
And when we talk about going out of the house, we also talk about a meeting place.
That's correct.
Right?
Everyone's fairly familiar with the idea that if you have a house fire, you want to have a common meeting place right outside your home, such as a mailbox, to know that everyone is out safely.
Okay, so plan that ahead of time.
Correct.
What if you're not at your house?
If you're not at your house, if someone's at work or at daycare, then have an alternate meeting place identified so that you know ahead of time where everyone should meet and be accounted for.
I know every time we have an earthquake, I am just fighting the urge to run outside. That is not the right thing to do, right?
Correct. Running outside is actually the worst thing you can do. It's your basic instinct. Get out of where you're at. However, it's safest to drop, cover, and hold.
Drop, cover, hold.
Correct. Because you want to get under a sturdy object such as a desk or a table to protect your head and your body from falling objects, because that's where the biggest risk lies.
Okay.
So get underneath that object and hold on, because with an earthquake shaking, it's going to move around.
When is it safe to come out?
Wait till the shaking stops, and then wait maybe an additional minute or so just to ensure there's nothing else that's going to be falling or that's still moving, and make sure it's safe to come out.
And you mentioned that glass before. Keep away from those windows, those
Exactly.
skylights,
Exactly.
all that shattered
A
glass.
great idea is to have a bag next to your bed with shoes and a flashlight in it, so that in case you do have broken glass and you need to get out of your bed, you have protection for your feet and you have a light to see.
Well, and that's a good point, because a lot of times these things happen when we are in bed.
Exactly.
And you want to stay there. You don't want to get up and run into your kids' room. You don't want the kids to get up and run in your room. You want to stay there until the shaking stops.
Right. And cover your head with a pillow lightly, because again, it's any protection over your head or your body that can prevent injury.
What if you're driving in a car?
That's the common question. When you're in a car, the easiest thing to do is gradually slow down, pull over to the side, and stop. Stay with your car and evaluate the situation around you rather than driving off. Make sure everything is safe first.
And if people here in the Bay Area, if you're on a bridge, in a tunnel, what do you do?
Again,
then?
safest thing is pull over, stop, and evaluate your situation before you take next steps. If you immediately react, you don't know what's changed in front or behind you.
You have given us so much good information. If I can't remember it all, I can go to the website.
Yes.
And it is www.smcready.org.
That's right.
Right? All right. Thank you so much, Sean
welcome.
O'Connor. It was really nice to meet you and
Thank you.
learn all this information. Now I'm off to learn some more. Now we're going to find out what to do outside of our home should a disaster strike. And to help us with that is Matt Lucette, North County Fire Authority. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Jennifer.
So what do we need to know about disaster hits, and we have all our utilities, things like that?
What you need to know, Jennifer, is you need to know where your utilities around your house are located. So when I say that, I mean knowing where your gas is, your water, and your electrical shutoff.
Okay, and then once we've found out where those are, how do you, I mean, really, I wouldn't have the first idea of how to turn off my gas.
Well, there's really certain times when you should and shouldn't turn off your gas. So the only time you turn off your gas following a disaster is if you hear or you smell the gas leaking.
And that's such an important point, because I know after the '89 earthquake, people did the right thing. They shut off their gas. They were very prepared, but in a lot of cases they didn't need to, and it took PG&E like 2 months to turn it back on.
Absolutely. And the important thing is once you turn it off, you can't turn it back on until PG&E can come out, evaluate your appliances, evaluate the gas lines to make sure it's safe before the gas goes back on.
So even though we're going to show you how to turn it off, don't do this at home. This is just to show you, right? Don't do
right.
it unless it's a real emergency. If you
Absolutely.
can smell it or hear it.
That's right.
Okay, so how do you do it?
So first, once you've identified where the gas meter is, just like this one here, there's a couple of different tools you can use. You can use a multi-hazard tool that has a gas shutoff already built into it, or a good old sturdy crescent wrench.
Okay.
And what you want to do is you want to look for the valve that's leading up into the meter, and you just take your wrench, put it on that valve, and give it a quarter turn,
Okay.
and that cuts off your gas.
Excellent. All right, so again, don't try this at home, but if it is an emergency, that's how you do it. Simple.
Absolutely.
All right, what's next? I know we're right near the water.
The only time that you really need to turn off your water is if you actually have a water leak inside your house, something like a broken pipe under the sink or something.
Okay.
And it's quite easy. Once you've located where the pipe is coming from outside into the house, you locate the valve here,
Right.
and you're just going to give it a turn to the right, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey,
Okay.
to turn it off or to turn it on.
And you just twist it to the right until you can't crank it down anymore. Water's turned off.
Exactly, no
Boy,
more water.
That's easy enough. I think I can even do that.
Absolutely. So Jennifer, here's our electrical panel, usually in the vicinity of the electrical meter. And what you want to do is you want to know where it is, and inside the panel you've got the different switches associated with the rooms in the house.
Right.
What you want to do is you just want to flip them to the off position.
Okay.
Now, most panels have the individual switches for the rooms in addition to a master. This house is a little different. It's got a separate master here.
That's why it's good to do these run-throughs, because every house is a little different.
Exactly. So
yeah.
there's a couple of options to shut off the power to your house.
Okay.
Either individual switches or the master switch here will kill all the power to the house.
All right, and you just flip those all down. Now, when is it appropriate to do this?
The best time to do this is if you have to evacuate your house for a period of time, or if you smell electrical burning in the house following a disaster or something like that, that might indicate that there's some electrical burning or something in the walls and so on. So you'd want to come out here and turn it off.
It's a lot to remember.
It is a lot to remember, but fortunately communities here in San Mateo County have the Community Emergency Response Team classes that they offer where you can learn all this information about your utilities.
Okay, great. Well, Matt Lisette, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've got to go and check out where all my utilities are now.
Good.
Thank you.
Sure.
We're here with Carol Parker from the Menlo Park Fire District. You're the CERT coordinator, right?
I am.
And you are going to teach us about one of the most important things, emergency supply kits.
That's right. We have a lot of stuff in